Hey dudes, HW here. This little unit just came out and it is getting a lot of attention. It is blowing up the internet boards and the forums and the Facebook groups. But a lot of people are having the same problems, the same issues. So what are they? What are the real problems with this unit? And where did IK drop the ball? And where are people just misunderstanding? So by far, the number one problem I see people having with this unit is that there's no effects loop. And what that means is, although the pedal can separate the amplifier and the cabinet, you can have direct captures that do not include any sort of cabinet information, and then you can pair that with an IR, or you can even shoot a sort of studio capture where you capture both the amplifier, the cab, some mics, all that stuff, and you can actually separate those. This thing, similar to the Kemper, will delineate a line in between the amp and cab and separate those out. And a lot of people are saying, hey, it's a real oversight that this unit doesn't have a loop so that I can put my effects in the middle. And I can't tell you like kind of how disappointed I am that no one else has pointed out why that is the most ridiculous argument, or that shows a real misunderstanding of how any of this works. So let me explain. Okay, now in this graphic that I borrowed from Anderton's, you can see the guitar running into a tuner, a wah, overdrive, distortion. These are all effects you would traditionally put in front of an amplifier because we want to push the front of an amplifier. We want to interact with the front of an amplifier. We want the amp to sort of give us its thing as we push it into overdrive, compression, distortion. Tubes are wonderful at this application. Then we see it goes in the amp and it comes out in a send and return. And the send and return in this graphic, you see EQ, chorus, delay, reverb. These are time-based effects. Typically, people will want to put these in an effects loop or after an amp because we don't necessarily want them interacting with the front of the amp. Now, sometimes people do. A big part of the Edges sound, the praise and worship sound, is that deluxe memory man, that delay really slamming the front of that amp, and we get this building and softening of compression and breakup and just by that delay, maybe a strong dotted eighth really slamming the front. That's part of the sound. But the point of an effects loop is really to mimic what was studio effects that were done on tape machines. Chorus, vibrato, delay. These things were double tracking. These things were all invented on tape machines by slowing down one tape head, by playing one tape head over another, but having one warble. That would be chorus. By having a vibrato where we put 100% of the signal to a warbly one that changes the pitch. All of these things were sort of done on tape in recordings. Micro pitch, flange. These are all tape effects that we can do in a studio. They would traditionally come after an amp. Effects loops, though, really came into fashion in the kind of, I would say, the early 1980s, really when people started modding their Marshalls. They put a ton more gain in amps. You'll notice that vintage amps like Plexis, AC30s, silver, black, brown panel, tweed Fenders do not have effects loops because they were actually usually not really seeking distortion. They were trying to get you clarity and definition and headroom at these varying levels of wattage. There's only one problem here, guys, that no one is pointing out, and I don't know how everyone's missing it. Effects loops don't actually put your signal between the amplifier and the cabinet. They actually put your signal between the preamp and the power amp. And that is pretty significant because if you look at something like a Dumble where you need the Dumbleator, or you want to jack up a delay or a return level on the back of a Marshall or a Mesa Boogie, you know that those effects still hit the power amp and can cause compression and distortion. They just cause it in usually a larger headroom tube stack of 6L6s or EL34s or 84s or 6V6s. The point is this: no digital unit actually lets you put effects into the effects return of amplifiers. When I say no digital unit, I mean the Kemper doesn't do it. You put the amps before or after. The Helix doesn't really do it unless you are separating preamp and power amp, which most people are not doing. We're normally doing the amplifier with a model of it and then a cabinet, and we're putting the effects there. Other units like the Axe-Fx, again, unless you're using a specific capture or model of just a preamp, then the effects, power amp. I see almost no one in the digital world actually doing that. What I see is everyone using amplifier, cabinet effects, or amplifier effects cabinet. But hang on a minute. Let's think about what an impulse response is for a minute. Impulse responses do have high amplitude. And they do give us back changes in frequency response. In phase, there could be like spectral cumulative decay, energy time curve. There's, I put some notes over here. There are all these things in an IR, but when you use an IR and you close mic a guitar amp, you really only need about 20 milliseconds of information. We're really sort of just after the EQ curve. It's EQ and phase is primarily what we use IRs for. They can do other things and other information. But because IRs are not a gain stage, and you really don't slam them to make them build in compression or grit. There is a thing called speaker breakup, but that's not what IRs can do. Because IRs don't give you more compression, more gain, it's not a gain stage, I would invite you to go on your digital unit and actually take an effect, put it before and after your IR, and see if there is a real significant difference. You may experience some tonal difference, but I would not, in my experience, before or after an IR, is really not enough of a difference in feel or sound that I've ever really considered it to be an important thing. I maybe in an A/B test can pick it up. But yeah, it's in terms of capturing an IR, because we don't capture the speaker breakup as the intensity of the signal goes up, because it's, like I said, not a gain stage, it doesn't make much of a difference. And it feels a lot like this unit is getting criticized for not having that, when neither does the Helix, neither does the Quad Cortex, neither does this unit, the Iridium, neither do the UAs. I mean, no unit has that, because I think to sound engineers, it's not viewed as an important distinction at all. And it's really not even viewed as something people want, because effects loops are not inserting effects between an amp and an IR, an amp capture or a direct amp model and an IR. That's a very different location. Okay, so the next big problem that I seem to see a lot of people have with this unit is they are disappointed. They're disappointed that it can only run one capture. And there's two ways to look at that. It would be great, I've seen some people say, I really want to run two captures so that I can capture my effects and I can capture my amplifiers. You can do that in Amplitube, the software, but that doesn't help us with the ToneX pedal. What I've done is I've been experimenting. I put some AC30 captures up on the cloud, and now I've added some more. A lot of people have been using those AC30 captures. They told me they really liked them. Check them out. They're up there. And I've added some more, but I've added that same amp, mic'd up the same way, with some effects in front. So you can now play that amp with the sort of amp by itself, the AC66, AC30, and then also with a King of Tone running in front of it. I captured that as one capture. I then went back and did an 808 into that sound. And that gives me my 3 levels of gain. Because what I really want to try to do is use this unit with just like something like a multi-effects unit, like an HX Stomp, and see if I can get a very, very small rig where I set up on A, just the amp, my overdrive, King of Tone, into the amp, and then 808, kind of a lead boost, into a King of Tone, into the amp. That's how I would sort of stack and run those pedals. And with ABC, I can do that. And that's kind of what I'm experimenting with to use it for my worship gig. And you can sort of see how this becomes a 3-stage gain pedal. We can sort of solve that problem just by capturing and setting these up in sort of an intelligent way. Here's me trying to get all 3 of those sounds in sort of a ambient worshipy context.
And the other complaint is sort of that same thing, one capture only at a time. And a lot of people would point to this unit and say, hey, this unit, the Iridium, which this really tries to compete with, is stereo in. I can take my stereo signal, I can put effects in front of it, stereo effects, I can slam the front of these amps like I want to. We talked about how the Edge and worship music likes to do that. I can put it in here, and even though I don't get 2 amps, I get an IR on each side. I mean, to that I would just say this. If that is really the most important thing to you, I would say go with this unit. If not, I would say get this unit and buy 2 of them. Because this capture tech is coming in at $400, and I really do believe that if they had given you a unit that was maybe even slightly larger, but that just did captures and could run 2 captures in stereo, I think most people would have paid $799 for that. I really do, because $799 is also the price of like an HX Stomp XL. Like, there's a lot of units. I mean, you're getting into H90 territory. I mean, there's units there for that. I mean, these are the same price, and for this, you sort of have to choose, do I want to do like stereo in with a TRS cable and IR on each side, or do I want to pay double, buy 2 of these, or just accept it's only one of them, but I have way more versatility on here. I make tone-matched IRs for Helix stuff. I have some almost ready to go for this unit. The capture tech in this, the Quad Cortex, the Kemper, is way more versatile than tone matching. That is the truth. Tone matching does a really great job of approximating IRs to sound like other amplifiers, but it doesn't change compression, frequency response. It changes frequency response. It does not change compression, gain, It does not change, you know, sort of like headroom, and a lot of times the feel is still a little more homogeneous. Even on my 65 collection, where I captured for the Helix and the HX Stomp all of the Fender line from 1965, the tone changes more than the feel. It still feels like that model, where in real life you really get a little more of a feel change when you go from a Princeton to a big dual Showman, you know, a big twin, right? So I would just say to people, I think they could have made this unit do dual captures. But you have to understand, had they done that, it's not a matter of laziness. They probably would have had to double the processing power, because you would have to run 2 instances of that pedal all the time. And that's why most of your units don't do proper spillover, because to have all your delays and reverb and stuff, they're letting you use up the capacity of the processor. And when you all of a sudden click to another reverb, it has to continue playing that old reverb and processing it while a new reverb comes up. The only way to really do that, I mean, would be to like do what Axe is doing and segment parts of the processing power, like partition part DSP, so that it can only be used for reverb, only used for this. That really limits the amount you can use, so that there's always leftover capacity for spillover and stuff. That's one way to design it. There's nothing wrong with that. But most units don't do that. They put in the processing power that they need, and they utilize the full breadth of it. Honestly, buy 2 of these. I would rather have 2 of these than 1 of these. That's just my thing. But if space is a concern, this is already smaller. So one of them is already going to be your thing. Choices are great, right? But at this price, and for what you get, being able to, I mean, get this with 1,000 captures with the thing, they aren't paying me. I'm just saying, it's like the HX Stomp. It's like, it's not my #1 preferred choice in a pedal, but I gotta sit back and look at the HX Stomp and go, dang, it really gives you everything. And this really, in its limited scope of like, we give you an amp that you can put on your pedal board. What amp? Any amp. Captures of any amp. It's a pretty great offering. All right, so I did say IK is not paying me, and they're not, but they did send me some units to give away to the community. And so I want to give away these units. Now, a lot of you guys have signed up. All you got to do to enter to win is sign up on the Tone Junkie, the email list down below, and I'm going to announce the winner over there via email. Just sign up, and you get my free 1966 AC30 capture pack. You get all the stuff that is up on ToneNet, plus more. I put a bunch more up there. It's the full amp and exhaustive, you know, kind of thing, run through of the amp, all the channels, as well as now with some effects in there. But you also get entered to win one of these, and I'm going to give away the first one, because there's going to be 2 prizes. First person is going to win a ToneX pedal, and then the big finale prize, second winner, which is going to happen next week, it's going to be the ToneX pedal and a capture unit. So you can like make your own stuff, and you don't have to go get a capture unit or find some gear to do it yourself. So sign up below. I'm going to give these away. We're going to do a little special announcement video announcing who the winner is, and I'm going to mail it to them. And then in about 1 week, we'll give away these other 2. And yeah, it's free to sign up. So I don't know.